In a move that has rocked the monarchy to its core, Prince William has reportedly forced Queen Camilla out of the palace for good. After years of quiet tension, behind-the-scenes battles, and public resentment, William finally delivered the ultimatum no one expected. Camilla must go. What followed was a royal earthquake. Personal staff escorted out, royal titles stripped, and Camilla exiled from royal life. Sources say even King Charles was cornered into silence. This wasn't just family drama, it was history in the making. And now, the woman who once stood beside the throne has been erased from it. The showdown at Clarence House. William takes a stand. It was the confrontation royal watchers never saw coming. Prince William, usually composed and diplomatic, walked into Clarence House with one goal: to end Camilla's time in the palace. And he didn't leave until the message was delivered loud and clear. According to insiders, tensions between William and Camilla had been simmering for months. Private clashes, subtle digs, and icy silences had become the norm. But this time, William had reached his breaking point. He reportedly told aides, "Enough is enough." What followed was a face-to-face confrontation that rocked the monarchy to its core. In a voice described as both firm and furious, William told Camilla that her presence was a stain on his mother's memory. The words cut through the room like a blade. For a man who rarely lets emotion show in public, the intensity of that moment revealed just how deep the wounds still run. Those present say Camilla was stunned. She had faced criticism before, but never like this, and never from the future king himself. William then turned to palace officials and instructed them to begin preparations. The message was clear: Camilla had to go, and soon. Palace staff began quietly organizing the transition. Private security reviewed protocols. Camilla's team was given limited access. Behind the scenes, the palace machine was already in motion, shifting power away from Camilla and toward William and Catherine. It was a moment years in the making. The culmination of silence, betrayal, and a slow-burning fury that finally exploded into action. For William, this wasn't just about personal history. It was about the future of the monarchy and reclaiming the dignity of his mother's legacy. And once that line was crossed, there was no going back. Camilla's secret power play exposed. The drama didn't start at Clarence House. It started with a secret plan that Camilla never expected anyone to uncover. And when Prince William found out, it changed everything. According to newly surfaced documents, Camilla had been quietly maneuvering behind the scenes to gain more influence over the Regency Council. With King Charles's health becoming an increasing concern, she allegedly sought to shift the power balance, not just to support Charles, but to sideline William and Catherine from key royal decisions. The revelation hit like a lightning bolt. William was blindsided. While he had suspected Camilla of quietly building her own court, the extent of her ambition stunned him. The documents outlined proposed changes to royal duties, patronage assignments, and even ceremonial roles. Changes that would shrink William and Kate's influence and expand Camilla's own reach. One royal source described the moment William read the files as cold fury. To him, this wasn't just palace politics, it was betrayal. After years of biting his tongue and tolerating Camilla's growing role, this was the final trigger. In private, William confronted senior advisors, demanding to know who had approved the proposals. Some denied involvement. Others admitted Camilla had lobbied heavily, using Charles's declining health as justification. But it was clear, this wasn't an accident. It was a calculated power play. The fallout was immediate. William reportedly told Charles that the monarchy could not survive if Camilla continued to operate in the shadows, manipulating royal structure for personal gain. This wasn't about family anymore. It was about stability and public trust. And so, what began as quiet whispers behind palace walls erupted into a royal reckoning. Camilla's ambition had gone too far, and William had finally seen enough. The confrontation that followed was inevitable, but the consequences? Far greater than anyone expected. King Charles cornered, forced to choose between son and wife. He never thought it would come to this. But after William's bold ultimatum, King Charles was faced with an impossible choice: his beloved wife or his legacy. Sources inside the palace say Charles was emotionally torn. His health had left him weakened, both physically and politically. And now, with the monarchy hanging. In the balance, his son stood before him demanding action. William didn't beg, he didn't threaten, he laid out the facts. "It's her or the future of the crown," he reportedly said. "You have to decide." The words were direct, final, and there was no misunderstanding what was at stake. For years, Charles had tried to balance both worlds, honoring Diana's memory while pushing Camilla into the public's acceptance. But the scandal surrounding her secret power moves, combined with a tidal wave of backlash from William and Kate's camp, left him with no room to maneuver. In a private meeting that insiders described as emotional and devastating, Charles sat down with Camilla and told her it was time to leave. He explained the growing pressure, the risk to the monarchy, and the irreversible damage already done. Camilla reportedly broke down, insisting she had earned her place and that this was all part of a smear campaign. But it didn't matter anymore. The tide had turned. For Charles, it wasn't just a personal loss, it was a public collapse. He had fought so hard to legitimize his marriage, to make Camilla part of the royal story. But now, even he couldn't deny the reality. The monarchy was bleeding trust, and only one move could stop it. He didn't speak to the cameras. He didn't issue a statement. But his silence and his failure to defend Camilla publicly spoke louder than any royal decree. And just like that, the woman who had once been called the future queen was out. Kate's silent influence behind the scenes. While the headlines screamed about William and Camilla, one figure remained calmly in the background. Princess Catherine. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't make public statements. But make no mistake, Kate's presence shaped everything. Insiders say her influence behind the scenes was steady, measured, and quietly powerful. For years, she stood by as tensions between William and Camilla quietly escalated. But all along, Kate had made her stance clear in private. Camilla's presence was not only hurtful to Diana's memory, it was harmful to the monarchy's future. Those close to her say she believed the impact on George, Charlotte, and Louis could not be ignored. She reportedly told William more than once that their children deserved a royal household built on integrity, not manipulation. Her priority was never revenge, it was protection. Catherine's support didn't come from anger. It came from clarity. She understood the institution, the weight of legacy, and the power of public perception. And she knew that as long as Camilla remained at the heart of the crown, the shadow over Diana's memory would never lift. In quiet moments, she reminded William of his mother's dignity and how much of it had been erased by palace politics. She urged him to think long-term, to imagine what the monarchy would look like when he wore the crown, and more importantly, what kind of truth they would be passing on to their children. It wasn't easy. For years, William hesitated, torn between royal duty and personal justice. But it was Catherine's unwavering strength that finally gave him the resolve to act. "She didn't push," said one aide. "She guided. She gave him space to decide, but made sure he never forgot what was at stake." And when the showdown finally happened, Kate was there. Not in the room, but behind the scenes, firm, composed, and unshaken. She didn't need a crown to influence the palace. Her quiet grace had already reshaped the future Camilla's public image crumbles. For years, Camilla worked tirelessly to reshape her public image. From scandalous mistress to respectable queen consort, she played the long game, attending charity events, avoiding controversy, and slowly warming herself into royal favor. But the illusion didn't last. Within 48 hours of her removal from Clarence House, the media narrative flipped, fast and hard. Headlines once cautious or sympathetic now called her disgraced, divisive, and even the royal saboteur. The press had protected her for years, but now, with Prince William taking a bold public stance, no one wanted to be on the wrong side of history. Old interviews resurfaced, ones where Camilla made subtle digs at Diana's emotional struggles. Clips that had once flown under the radar were suddenly everywhere. Social media erupted. Memes, threads, and viral videos exposed years of quiet cruelty, all wrapped in smiles and pearls. The public wasn't laughing anymore. Polls showed an immediate and dramatic shift. Within days, Camilla's approval ratings plummeted. Supporters who once argued she had earned her place now openly questioned how she had ever been allowed near the throne. Commentators on talk shows, news panels, and royal podcasts declared her redemption arc. Officially dead, one former royal correspondent put it bluntly, "She had a second chance, and she wasted it with ambition." Even her past charity work couldn't save her. Campaign leaders began distancing themselves. Scheduled appearances were quietly canceled. No one wanted their cause tied to the woman now being blamed for dividing the crown. Inside the palace, the message was clear. Her chapter was closed. What was once a carefully protected narrative, polished by PR and years of patient effort, was now crumbling in real time. And for Camilla, who had once been the hidden power behind the throne, the spotlight has never felt so unforgiving. Eviction in motion. Security and protocols activated. What began as a private demand turned into a full-scale royal operation. Once King Charles reluctantly agreed to remove Camilla from the palace, the response was swift and brutally efficient. Royal security teams were the first to act. Camilla's personal staff were quietly escorted off the premises. No drama, no public spectacle, just immediate clearance. Their badges were deactivated. Access codes changed. Within hours, she was effectively cut off from every royal communication channel. Next came the logistics. Camilla's private quarters at both Buckingham Palace and Clarence House were sealed. Items were carefully packed and removed under strict palace supervision. No fanfare, no photos. Only silence and protocol. Then came the symbolic blow, the one that made it real. The Queen Consort title plaque was taken down, removed from the office door, erased from digital directories. It was a quiet gesture, but one that echoed through the walls of the monarchy. Camilla was no longer part of the royal machine. Sources say palace aides were under strict instructions to act respectfully but decisively. No leaking, no leaks, just finality. And in the middle of it all, Camilla watched in disbelief. Friends say she didn't speak much. She simply stared as her world, The one she fought so long to join vanished in front of her. There was no public farewell, no press conference, no wave to the crowd. One moment, she was queen consort, and the next, a former royal, packing boxes in silence. The operation lasted less than 24 hours. The palace had done this before, but never to someone at the very top. Never to a woman who wore the crown just days before. Now, the gates have closed behind her, and the monarchy moves forward without her. William's formal decree to the Crown Council. After the dust settled behind the towering gates of Buckingham Palace, Prince William did what no heir had dared to do in modern royal history. He made it official. No more silent tensions, no more carefully managed optics. He put it in writing. In a move that left the royal establishment reeling, William issued a formal decree to the Crown Council, the elite advisory body that quietly steers the monarchy in times of internal crisis. And this time, the message wasn't filtered through press statements or family intermediaries. It came directly from William himself, signed and sealed. Invoking his future role as sovereign, William called Camilla's continued presence within the monarchy a disruption to the crown's moral compass. His words weren't emotional or personal. They were deliberate, calm, unmistakable. This wasn't about family grievances. It was about the future of the monarchy itself. He argued that in order to survive the modern era, in order to regain the public's fractured trust, the royal family must embody truth, transparency, and moral clarity. And in William's view, Camilla no longer reflected any of those values. Her past wasn't just controversial, it was corrosive. At first, the reaction from the Crown Council was mixed. Some senior figures were hesitant. They worried about the optics of removing a queen consort. Others feared it would set a dangerous precedent. But then came the polls, the headlines, the crowds chanting Diana's name outside palace gates. Public opinion was no longer split. It was roaring. And William's resolve never wavered. He reportedly told the council, "We cannot move forward while dragging the weight of the past behind us." His words were met with a long silence, and then a slow nod of agreement. After hours of intense deliberation, the council voted in favor of William's request. It was historic, unprecedented, and yet fully constitutional. Legal advisors confirmed that while the title of Queen Consort is traditionally permanent, it is not protected by law. It exists by the Crown's grace and the people's will. With a single decision, William had done more than remove a controversial figure. He had redefined royal leadership. In one stroke, he defended his mother's legacy, protected the crown's future, and gave the public what it had quietly demanded for decades: accountability. He didn't just act as a son. He acted like a king. And for once, the monarchy didn't resist. It followed. Charles and William. A fractured alliance or silent agreement? With Camilla gone, a strange and uneasy silence settled over the royal family. Not from the cameras or the press, but from within. The drama had unfolded in public. But now the real question hovered like a cloud inside palace walls. What would become of the relationship between father and son? At the center of it all was a wound that no title could hide. King Charles had just lost his closest companion, not through scandal or public outrage, but through his own son's firm and final demand. And while the monarchy had survived the fallout, something between Charles and William had shifted, maybe for good. Some palace insiders believe the damage is irreversible. They say Charles never fully forgave William for forcing his hand. Yes, the decision may have been right for the crown, but it cut deep. Camilla had been by his side for most of his adult life, through scandal, shame, and eventual public redemption. To have her removed, not by the press or politicians, but by his own heir, left behind a bitter silence that still hangs between them. Others, however, paint a different picture. According to senior aides, Charles had grown weary in recent months. His health was fragile. His public appearances were shorter. And behind the scenes, he knew Camilla's growing unpopularity was becoming a burden. As one insider put it, Charles didn't have the strength to do it himself, but he's relieved someone did. Still, the emotional cost was clear. Charles never issued a statement. He never defended Camilla. The man who once went to war with the world to legitimize her place in the royal family said nothing. And that silence, for those paying attention, spoke louder than any public comment ever could. Behind closed doors, Charles reportedly confided in a friend that he hopes William doesn't hate him for what came before. That brief, vulnerable line says everything about the quiet guilt he may now carry. And William, he remains respectful, loyal, and dutiful, but noticeably distant. The warmth once seen between father and son has grown rare. They fulfill their roles. They shake hands. They stand shoulder to shoulder in public. But behind the smiles is space. Now the monarchy moves forward, not as a family healed, but as a structure surviving. One built on history, scarred by loss, and now carefully shaped by William and Kate at the center. The image is clear: the loyal heir, the graceful princess, and a new era. Rebuilt not with love, but with resolve. And Charles? He watches it all unfold, knowing that even as king, his legacy no longer belongs to him alone. Public rejoices. Diana's name echoes across the UK. As news of Camilla's removal spread, the streets of Britain lit up with something the monarchy hadn't seen in years: unity. But this wasn't about William or Charles or palace politics. This was about Diana. Crowds gathered outside Kensington Palace, not in protest, but in tribute. Portraits of the late princess filled the gates. Candles flickered, flowers piled high, and across the UK, people chanted the same phrase over and over: "Justice for Diana." It was a wave of emotion, decades in the making. People who had mourned silently now stood proud, honoring the woman who was silenced far too soon. Social media exploded with hashtags like #CamillaOut, #ThePeopleRemember, and #Diana forever. Even young people who weren't alive during Diana's era joined in, moved by her legacy and the truth that had finally come out. Petitions began circulating within hours. Thousands demanded that Camilla's royal titles be permanently stripped and that new statues of Diana be placed outside major royal landmarks. Artists painted murals overnight, massive portraits of Diana smiling, angelic, powerful, staring forward with strength. In towns and cities across the UK, candlelight vigils popped up in parks and squares. People didn't just want a celebration, they wanted reflection. And through it all, the same message rang out loud and clear. Diana was right. She was telling the truth. And now the world was listening. The monarchy hadn't just removed a controversial figure, they had reopened a wound. And in doing so, finally started to heal it. Diana's name echoed everywhere. And for the first time in a long time, she wasn't just a memory. She was a victory. Camilla in exile. What's next for the fallen queen consort? Once one of the most powerful women in the royal family, Camilla now wakes up in silence. No staff buzzing, no palace bells ringing, no royal schedule to keep her occupied. Her world, carefully crafted over decades of resilience, scandal, and quiet strategy, has collapsed almost overnight. She has reportedly relocated to her private estate in rural Wiltshire, a sprawling but isolated property far from the palaces that once echoed her influence. The team that once surrounded her, assistants, stylists, protocol advisors, has been reduced to a skeleton staff. Royal security convoys have been pulled. Her government-funded wardrobe and transport are gone. The gilded cage is gone. What remains is distance and silence. For the first time in nearly 2 decades, Camilla is not Her Majesty, the Queen Consort. She's simply Camilla Parker Bowles again, and the transition has been brutal. According to sources close to the situation, she feels deeply betrayed, not just by the royal institution, but by King Charles himself. After standing beside him through decades of scandal and public scrutiny, she believed she had secured her place for good. Now, after one storm, one decisive move by Prince William, it's all gone. Friends say she is heartbroken and humiliated. Some describe her as withdrawn, refusing calls, canceling long-planned appearances, and retreating into long walks on the estate grounds. And perhaps most shockingly, she's seriously considering writing a tell-all memoir. One insider warned, she feels she has nothing left to lose. If she moves forward with it, the fallout could be explosive. Camilla knows the palace's secrets, the private rifts, the public lies, and everything in between. A single page could reignite royal tensions that have barely cooled. And yet, those around her say she's torn. Speak out and destroy what's left, or stay silent and vanish into history's margins. Either way, the palace has made its stance clear. She's banned from attending royal ceremonies, state events, and even informal family gatherings. There are no discussions of reinstatement, no plans for appearances, not even a whisper of reconciliation. And so she waits, exiled not by law, but by legacy. Once the woman beside the king, now a ghost at the edge of the crown. In the story of Diana, Charles, William, and Kate, Camilla is no longer the villain or the survivor. She's simply a chapter the monarchy is ready to close. And history? It's moving forward without her. Camilla's royal reign is over, and William's bold move has reshaped the future of the monarchy. With the public cheering and Diana's memory rising stronger than ever, a new royal era has begun. One built not on scandal, but on truth. And the people's heir is finally leading the way.